Okay, so this video we're going to look at how to add XP. So basically there's two basic aspects to that. How much XP does an individual enemy have? And how much XP does total XP does a character have? So so if they kill this enemy, how much do they get? And how much total do they have? So just like anything else that we're tracking, basically you're going to have to create a new variable. So for now, we're going to put the XP variable on the script here in the battle system, but more than likely, when you have your final project, the XP variable for the characters will probably actually be defined outside of battle, because that's something that you don't want to keep resetting every time you get into battle. But for the purposes of this demonstration, we'll put it in here. So let's take a look at, if we go to battle flow, we can define the variables here. So, and you can say, well, why don't you put the variable here, like as you did with the witch HP? Well, again, the XP is really above and beyond just this object. So this object is affected by HP, not necessarily affected directly by XP, though. That any calculations based on XP is actually kind of done external to this object. But again, like I said, what we're doing with XP in this tutorial is really kind of temporary anyway. So there's arguments to be made to put it here or in the individual characters. So for now, we'll just put it into battle flow. So public static, and this will be an int, and we'll call this which total XP, and it starts at 0. Public static int suit total XP also starts at 0. And we'll save that. Now, unlike their XP, the enemy XP really is indeed associated with the object on the screen there. So we need the enemy to also have XP, but we don't want it to be static, because you could have 5 of these or 3 of these or whatever amount of enemies we're going to allow. So we really want it to not be static. So public int, and we'll call this enemy XP. But since when you kill the enemy, you get XP, you don't want this to be at 0. You want this to be at whatever amount of XP it's going to be. So let's say 100. And like I said, if this script is, say, attached to 3 different enemies, you would have 3 separate variables, each with their own XP. So even though this would be repeated on 3 enemies, because it's not static, it would be 3 distinct variables, each with the same name, and it won't confuse the system at all. Okay, so the enemy now has XP to be earned, and the 2 characters now have variables that can store how much XP. So it's just a matter of when the enemy dies, adding this to them. Now, there's obviously some variations that we can look at later, like for instance, maybe a piece of equipment gives one person a bonus but not the other, or maybe whoever does the final strike, they get extra XP, kind of like recently in Tales of Berseria, whoever does the final strike gets like 20% more, that kind of thing. So what is a simple calculation to begin with can become much, much more complex. All right, so we already have a section for when the enemy dies. If enemy HP is less than or equal to 0, destroy the object. Well, since we've already carved out for when the enemy dies, we can just put the calculation for the XP rate there. So battle flow is where we declared those 2 new variables. So battle flow dot which total XP plus equals, and it's enemy XP. Battle flow dot suit total XP plus equals enemy XP. And what we'll do, again, like I said, when you add new functionality, you really want to make sure it's working before you go too far into it. So debug.log, and what we'll do in here, we'll put which XP plus battle flow dot which total XP plus suit XP plus battle flow dot suit total XP. I don't remember if I mentioned it before, but I think it's kind of odd that when you're concatenating values, so this is a string, and you're concatenating it with this. In other words, you're having a string followed by a variable, which will have a value. Oddly, they don't use the ampersand. They use the plus sign. So I think that's a little odd, but that's just the way that it is. We'll save this, and now when the enemy dies, they will get XP. Now, there aren't any decisions based on that yet. Like, you don't see an increase in level or anything yet. We haven't gotten that far. But the first step is the tracking. So, we now need to change the enemy HP because I think I pumped it up to like 500 or something. Yeah, 900. So let's make it just 100. And we run it. Press 1. Gets 80 points of damage. Press 1. Dies. Which XP 100? Suit XP 100. Just like that, you have now created the basis of an XP system. You then take those values, okay, and then that's when you start making decisions. Like if XP is 100, then they get an extra 10% to damage. If XP is 200, they get 20% to damage, whatever. You have their stats be derived from their ultimate or their total XP. So, like I said, this is a short one just so you guys know that I'm still working on it, and I apologize for the delays. But now you can see the basis for an XP system, which then leads you into a leveling system. So, for instance, the damage is calculated. Let's see. So when the enemy is hit, I don't want to go too much down the rabbit hole, but I wanted to see where enemies received their damage. Well, like for instance, here's where the witch, so in the enemy con script, this is where the witch and the suit, they take damage. Well, what you could do is you could then adjust this based on XP. So rather than using, you would still want to have a variable that shows their level, but you could do something like have this be adjusted based on their XP. That'd probably be a little bit messy. You'd probably want to have a separate level. But that's the idea, is that you start modifying some of these variables by additional variables. So, all right, so I think that's it for now. Like I said, just a quick one to get the basic XP into place. And I think the next one we'll start looking at like a leveling system. So that should do it.